a certificate of presentation. So let's get on with our webinar and let's play some Nutrition Jeopardy. Your first host is Keri Lipperini, the Director of the Office of Nutrition and Health Promotion Programs at ACL. And with Keri today as co-host is Judy Simon, National Nutritionist with ACL. So Keri, I'm going to turn it over to you. Let's play Jeopardy.
Thank you, Kathy. Well, before we do that, I'd like to start with giving a little bit of context for today's webinar. Again, today's webinar is Trifecta, Nutrition, Socialization, and Health and Well-Being. And in case you're unfamiliar with the word trifecta, I'm going to pull out the dictionary to give you a definition. Trifecta is a recent addition to the English language. It first appeared in the 1970s as a term for horse race bets in which the first, second, and third place finished are chosen in correct order. The word has since broadened. It can now be referred to as a group of three, usually desirable things. Trifecta is in everything from advertising to media company names to casual speak. So some of you may be thinking to yourself, now, Keri, how does this relate to our nutrition program? Well, by law, the intent of the nutrition program is much more than just nutrition or delivering a meal. The act includes socialization activities, along with taking actions in the area of health and well-being. In some way, the nutrition is the easy part. Sure, we can deliver a delicious meal, healthy food to our seniors. However, socialization and health and well-being are often the harder part, especially now in this virtual world. We purposely called this series Trifecta because each and every component of the nutrition program is important. Together, not siloed, is how we're making a very big and positive impact for older adults. Coming from the network, I know it isn't easy. The congregate meal programs automatically generated socialization with conversation over meals, as well as better health and well-being with various activities older adults participated in. And I am aware that the many barriers that you have to overcome to make this work. However, we must take on the charge to make the difference. Some of our seniors are really struggling now from the lack of socialization due to COVID-19 distancing. Many continue to live day in and day out without constant socialization or engagement from others. Other senior situations their health are failing due to little to no physical activity. Again, also due to COVID-19 restrictions nationwide. This problem needs our attention. If you've heard me speak in the past, you've likely heard that I've spent time in the Navy. And in the Navy, we have a saying that I live by. If you see a problem and do nothing about the problem, you are part of the problem. Today, I'm sending out a distress signal to all of the network. Our seniors need socialization and activities to keep them active and well. I urge you to be part of the solution. Simple things can be done, like checking in frequently with participants, checking on their overall health and well-being. That can simply be done by asking questions that peel back the layers of the onion. So instead of asking, did you have dinner last night, for example, ask the question, did you tell me what you ate for dinner? What was your favorite part of the meal? Try and understand if there's more going on than meets the eye. Remember, again, you are the eyes and the ears to our American seniors. And we need to know, and they need to know they're valued citizens and should be taken care of this way. The long-term effects of COVID-19 are unknown. Let us not look back and wish we had done more. So we're going to hear from two of our very innovative network speakers who will inspire you, Jason and Joel. They will challenge you to think outside the box and use the tools you have at hand to deliver the best senior nutrition program. All right, so now let's get to the fun part. Let's get to playing Jeopardy. So we're going to test some knowledge of three contestants who has graciously agreed to participate. Our first contestant is Beatrice. Beatrice comes from Pennsylvania. Beatrice, or as her friends like to call her, loves nature. In the warm summer months, she enjoys sitting outside in her garden, drinking her warm tea with honey. And in her spare time, she enjoys hiking on many of the PA trails. In the winter month, she is the first one to be hiking on the Montage Ski Resort for some snow tubing. Our second contestant is Peaches. Peaches comes from California. Peaches enjoys soaking up the California sun at the beach, hiking with her friends and family, long drives on the California coast, and trying fun and new activities like surfing and scuba diving. When Peaches is not outside enjoying some outdoor activities, she's getting lost in a good book, catching up on her favorite shows, or attempting to master a new baking recipe, which she quite hasn't got the hang of yet. Our last contestant is Ginger. Ginger grew up in Wyoming on a horse ranch. Her friends called Ginger the spicy one. So watch out, other contestants. She enjoys cooking for work crews on the range. She's an expert on protein dishes that include beans and cooks off a wagon cook stove. She is also known for her many groundhog recipes, which she successfully added to her standard Italian dishes. So now that you know our contestants, I'm going to encourage you to pick one of your favorite who you'll be rooting for during this game. So without further ado, I'm going to put our host, Judy Simon. So let's have a round of applause for Judy.
Well, thank you so much. I'm excited to be your Jeopardy host today. And we're going to start with Beatrice. So let's go to our first question. The ACL office leading the Celebrate the Senior Nutrition Program events is A, the Office of Nutrition and Health Promotion Programs, the Office of Nutrition, the Office of Eating Well, or the Office of Smart People. Which is correct, Beatrice?
Well, Judy Fruity, as I look through these answers, I just think they must be smart people who eat well and know their nutrition. But I'm going to choose A, Office of Nutrition and Health Promotion Programs.
All right, let's see the answer. It's correct. The Office of Nutrition and Health Promotion Programs. Beatrice, congratulations. You get to go on to the next question. Beatrice, your next question is, the 2020 reauthorization changes for the Title IIIC nutrition services. Which new issue was added to the 2020 reauthorization of the Older Americans Act that relates to the Senior Nutrition Program? Select one. Was hunger just added? Food? Malnutrition? Or meals? What was new to the 2020 reauthorization?
Let's see, Judy Fruity. I think I'm going to have to go with C, malnutrition.
Let's see what the answer is. You are correct, Beatrice. You have a very high nutrition IQ. Congratulations. We'll give you another shot and see if you can answer this next question. Which of the following is a purpose of the Older Americans Nutrition Program? A, to deliver meals to homebound older adults. B, educate people about eating blueberries. C, promote socialization of older individuals. Or D, offer dessert first.
Judy, this one's easy. My mama always said, offer dessert first.
Let's see if you got it right. Oh, Beatrice, I'm so sorry. Actually, one of the purposes of the Older Americans Act Nutrition Program is to promote socialization of older individuals. Good try. You've got 2 points. Let's move on to our next contestant, Peaches, for our next question. Peaches, which statement about the Senior Nutrition Program is true? A, we must serve everyone who applies to participate. B, eligibility for meals is based on income. C, populations with poor nutrition should be targeted. Or D, nutrition programs should target older individuals who are in greatest social and economic need. Which is true?
I think the answer to this one is D.
Let's see. D is correct. Nutrition programs should target older individuals who are in greatest social and economic need. Great job, Peaches. Let's see if you can answer the next question. What national standards are the key nutrition requirements for the Older Americans Act nutrition program? A, dietary reference intakes and dietary guidelines for Americans. Or B, the Aging National Nutrition Standards. C, Eating Well for Older Adults. Or D, Older Americans Nutrition Guidelines.
Let's see. Why don't we go with A?
A, let's see, is she correct? Peaches, you're correct. The dietary reference intakes and the dietary guidelines for Americans are the national standards for the Older Americans Act nutrition program. Next question. Peaches, we'll start with you. The dietary guidelines, actually. When was the last time the dietary guidelines for Americans was released? A, 2020, B, 2005, C, 1900, or D, never?
You know, I don't keep up with this kind of stuff, so maybe 2005?
Oh, I'm sorry, Peaches, that was a really good guess because dietary guidelines were released in 2005, but most recently in 2020. Great job. Let's move on to Ginger. Ginger, you get this next question. Based on the dietary guidelines for Americans, what is an important component of a meal served in the Senior Nutrition Program? A, plenty of fiber to help with constipation. B, raisins because they're a fruit. C, spicy food to help with the decline in ability to taste. Or D, protein to help address the risk of sarcopenia. Ooh, you got a long one.
Howdy there, Judy. That is a long one, and it's kind of hard too. Let me see. You know, out here on the ranch, we get a lot of exercise and we move around a lot. So I'm not sure about the plenty of fiber. You know, I like my bread. Raisins, I know raisins are a fruit. My daddy ate them all his life. Spicy food, I don't know. I like spicy food a lot, but it kind of makes me sweat. And that last one, that sarcopenia stuff, I don't know what that is, and I have a lisp, so it's even hard for me to pronounce. But I guess I'm gonna stay with, I'll do that sarcopenia. I'll do number D.
All right, Ginger. Oh, and you're correct. Protein. And sarcopenia is age-related loss of muscle and strength, and it results in functional declines and loss of independence. So protein is really important, and the dietary guidelines for Americans mentions it specifically. Let's ask Ginger the next question. According to the Older Americans Act, what professional is considered the source of reliable nutrition education? A, a certified dietary counselor. B, registered dietitian. C, nutritionalist. Or D, Keri Lipperini.
Oh, this one's easy. You know, I came out to Washington, D.C. a couple years ago, and I was walking down the street over by that Capitol building because I wanted to see if I could see me a president or a congressman or somebody. But I run into this little blonde, and she started talking, and she talked, and she talked, and she talked. And her name was that Lipperini one. So I'm going to go with number D.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's actually a registered dietitian. We all respect and admire Keri Lipperini a lot, and she is very smart. But a registered dietitian is the professional considered the source of reliable nutrition education.
Well, shoot.
All right, we'll go back to Beatrice. True or false, Beatrice? All states should have the same nutrition standards since they're all based on the dietary guidelines for Americans and the dietary reference intakes. True or false?
Wow, that's a good question, Judy. I think I'm going to have to go with true on this one.
Oh, good try. It is false, though, because while required to meet the dietary guidelines and the dietary reference intakes, each state unit on aging actually develops its own unique policies, procedures, and reporting mechanisms based on the needs of their populations and their state priorities. So good try, Beatrice. We're going to move on to Peaches for the next question. True or false about nutrition analysis? All states should require nutritional analysis of their menus because the Older Americans Act requires meals to meet the dietary guidelines for Americans and the dietary reference intakes. True or false, Peaches?
I wish I had gotten that question Beatrice did. Let's see. I think this one is true.
And the answer is false. Good guess, though, Peaches. While required to meet dietary guidelines and the dietary reference intakes, each state unit, again, develops its own unique policies, procedures, and reporting mechanisms. So nutrition analysis is not required across the board for all states. Let's go to Ginger for the last question. Ginger. How can state nutrition programs prioritize which clients they can serve? First come, first served is A, or B, the oldest clients first, then the younger. C, a lottery system, or D, the Older Americans Act targeted populations and those with greatest social and economic need.
Well, Judy, I'm almost scared to guess on this one because that Lipperini woman, she told me the answer to this one, but last time I was wrong when I guessed her. But I guess I'll go with her, and I'm gonna say D, targeted populations. Yahoo! I got it right.
Good for you, Ginger. Thanks, everyone. Keri, I don't know if you were keeping score, if we have a winner or a nice tie across all three.
She may be tallying up those numbers. We'll wait and get that report from her. So I'm excited to move to the next portion of our presentation. Jason Echols is going to present today. As I mentioned, he's manager at AgeOption. And with that, Jason, I'm going to toss it over to you.
Okay, thanks so much, Kathy. And please tell me if you can't hear me too, because
You are good.
Oh, I talk to myself a lot. Wouldn't it be nice if there's some people we like to mute in our lives, but that's one benefit of virtual living, I guess. But hi, everyone. This is Jason, and I want to thank Kathy and Keri and Judy and everyone from ACL for having us on today. I have to confess I am not in the nutrition program over here at AgeOptions, but I'm going to talk a little bit about some of our other programs, particularly around social isolation that we've done. But to give one thing, because I think Beatrice was cheated out of one of those answers, and I think there should be an entire presentation about the educating about blueberries. They're wonderful and one of my favorites. And I just found out recently that cooking them does not decrease the amount of antioxidants you get in them. So if Beatrice wants her blueberry pie, I'm just saying that's something you can do. So, but anyway, I'm here at AgeOptions. We're the area agencies on aging for suburban Cook County in Illinois, just outside of Chicago. Our vision is people thriving as they age. And we'll come back to that a few times in our presentation, people thriving as they age. We do take that to heart. Our mission is there as well. And kind of the key points there that we innovate, partner, and advocate. And I think I have maybe some colleagues on, Emma and Paul, if you guys are on. They actually work on our Nutrition Innovations grant, which we're thankful to ACL for. We have a number of programs out of AgeOptions that are part of our Older Americans Act, but also stepping outside of that to serve the people in our community. And social isolation has been one of our main issues that we've been trying to focus on and narrow in on and try to. Can you go to the next slide, Kathy? And okay, well, I think a lot of times in song, and so this presentation, you'll see some references to 80s divas throughout, and Ms. Ross said it, you know, upside down, inside out, and round and round. You know, I think a boy was doing that to her, but COVID sent it to all of us, right? Just turned our world upside down. And so today I just wanted to talk about some two of our programs that survived through COVID. Next slide. And how they did as well. So two programs I'm going to focus on. One is memory cafes, and the other is our Thrive with Pride cafes. So memory cafes are social settings where people living with dementia or memory loss and their care partners can meet others and enjoy time together. Social setting, meet others, enjoy time together. Those are obviously, this was started before COVID. So, you know, how do you adapt that to a virtual world? But one really important, particularly the folks on the call today, is that this is the third year of this program, but it really started as a partnership between our caregiver resource centers and our meal sites, our primary meal sites. And Thrive and Pride cafes are newer, and what those are our local network of churches and other community-based organizations that partner with AgeOptions to host programming for LGBT plus older adults. Next slide. Both of them have the goal of decreasing social isolation for the respective folks. Next slide. And well, if you were to go to one, what would you find? At memory cafes, you find a number of different activities: chair yoga, music therapy, sing-alongs. Obviously, I would love that because, like I said, I love songs and thinking of music, much more. Thrive with Pride cafes, you would start out, they were sort of just a check-in, right? How's people doing? A little chat. And then move on to a monthly guest speaker on topics like healthy living, advanced care planning, legal issues, etc., and sometimes some fun things as well. So education and fun. Next slide. And so I think when you talk about programs and stuff, it's important to acknowledge, well, that costs money, right? It does take money to make programs happen, and we're very thankful for the funding we have. This year with Memory Cafes, we are funding those through CARES Act. And before that, we had state dollars paying or funding those programs. I'm sorry, Memory Cafes. And then Thrive with Pride is funded through private foundation funding. Two local foundations, Community Memorial Foundation and Chicago Community Trust, are funders, and we're grateful for their funding. Next slide. And so, you know, if you're on the internet and you see those memes of how it started, how it's going, well, here's how it started. Is everybody together in person having fun. You know, if you like music, this is a concert, right? Remember, that was the thing we did. We gathered together, we had fun, it was an energy we had. Next slide. But how it's going is this. I feel this person just there, mask on, headphones up, and like Tiffany said, I think we're alone now, right? So, you know, that's how it's going right now. So COVID happened, things are different now. Here's how both programs adapted to a virtual setting. Next slide. So if we're talking about 80s music, back then you were living in a material world, now you're living in a virtual world. For memory cafes, one of the ways that they adapted was, like we said, we used some CARES Act dollars, and they were able to provide extra funds to our partners to support tech and said, hey, you know, do what you need to do. Some people might be able to easily connect with you and continue with cafes, and some people may not. Use some dollars to help people get connected and stay connected. We also use dollars to contract with Sounds Good Choir and their Good Memory Sing-Along program. What was cool there is that they actually specialize in Zoom singing. I'm not going to do that today, but isn't that kind of interesting? You know, like they do specialize in that. You can find specialized programs for a virtual world, and they were one that we contracted with, and I'll come back to them later as well. For Thrive with Pride cafes, COVID hit right as this program was getting started. So we had to rethink it and make it completely online. And what we did was a monthly plenary held live via Zoom, recorded for YouTube, and then each site having a follow-up virtual meeting. I'll make a note here that when you talk about virtual programming, I often say Zoom, we're up and on that, and a lot of us are, but you could think about things in different ways and how to use, like Zoom, then record it, put it on YouTube. Okay, people can call in to different things. They don't need a computer, they just need a phone. Think about programming in different ways that way. Next slide. Now, and Whitney Houston, she was always asking the right questions. How will I know? So tell me, how will I know? If you're having a great program, that's great, but how do people know about it? Especially now. So next slide, Kathy. Well, we tried a couple of different things, and you start where, you know, you got to start where you are, and our thing is that we're an aging network. We definitely work with aging networks, particularly home delivered meals, meal sites, including flyers there. As I said, our memory cafe started out as a partnership with congregate meal sites. They provided a physical location for the cafes. Not happening this year, and they're very busy, as I'm sure you guys know, with other things, but they've helped us promote the virtual cafes. Next slide. And the other thing that I'd suggest is step outside of your network, step outside of your box was something that's helpful to us, particularly these two special events. I mentioned before Sounds Good Choir and their Good Memory Sing-Along program. You know, that actually is really interesting because it does stand alone from memory cafes. You can just attend that. It's, I think, a monthly program, and you could just join in and do. It's an easy kind of standalone program that we can promote. Some local legislators actually share it with their constituents because it's just easy to explain. It's just like, hey, just show up, sing along with us. It's just a social event, nothing more or less. But they're trying to target the same people. It makes it easy to kind of transition into inviting those folks to memory cafes, right? And then the other thing, Sage Table. Sage Table is an intergenerational LGBT event, usually over dinner. Pre-COVID times, it would be inviting people into your house to have dinner. 2 weeks ago, we did have a virtual dinner where we sent meals to people, both older adults and younger people who identified as LGBT plus and the LGBT community. And it was a fantastic event. It was just socialization again. It wasn't, let's talk about aging, let's do things like that. It was just simple questions to kind of share and connect with each other. And was a really, really successful event. I think one other thing is we had a AmeriCorps service member who worked with us on this, and they did a fantastic job of organizing the meals and also came up with a playlist, a YouTube playlist that they sent the link to the waiting room, and people were able to listen to some really great music while waiting to join. And we played it at different parts of the night, just fun things. Keep networking too, even in Zoom chats. So when you hear a cool idea from somebody or someone asks you questions, well, in our neighborhood we do chat with them, say, hey, can we connect? There's still opportunities for networking people and sharing ideas. Next slide. And so virtual things, you should go online and do that. But I put this at the end on purpose because not everybody is online, right? One thing we've learned is with social media to make an event for Facebook, and that way people can respond to it and they'll get reminders and things like that. The Facebook events have been helpful. The website, now I'm really thrilled about this. thrivingwithpride.org. That's www.thrivingwithpride.org. Please go visit it. We just started this site, or just able to get it live, and our new URL is here to make it easier for people to get to. Thrive with Pride Cafes are virtual, so we need a virtual presence, and we've been working on the website Kate has, so it's done a great job. Okay, next slide. All right, so we're asked to define success. Well, how do you define it? And, you know, I thought of this song, Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now. I love that song. It's one of my favorite ones. And I think it is part of success. Don't let things stop you. Just keep trying things, keep doing things. Can you take the next slide, Kathy? And thank you so much. So if you're defining success, I asked Kate and Amanda and Beth, I said, what would you define success? And we said, you know what, it's basic. Did anybody come? You know, did anybody even show up? And that's basic, but if you think about it, memory cafes, think about a person with dementia being able to join a virtual program and stay engaged for 40 minutes. That is absolutely success. Absolutely success, even for a few minutes, or even just logging on for the memory sing-alongs, the Good Memories choir sing-alongs. And with Thrive with Pride Cafes, we know that older LGBT folks are out there. Thrive with Pride program is kind of like a beacon, bringing them into the aging network. And not just individuals, but also organizations, signaling like we believe in this, we think it's important, and bringing folks in. So did anyone show up? That actually is a good success monitor. Kathy, next slide. Okay, you can do quantitative measures too. Memory cafes do pre-post tests on UCLA loneliness scale, and Thrive with Pride, we do end-of-year surveys. Next slide, Kathy. But more than that, I think the quantitative measures are important, but also there's some things that are unexpected that you can look back on as successes, and I think that's what we found. I don't know what this year is, and I don't think anybody really knows what success looks like sometimes until it happens. So these are some examples of unexpected things that have happened. With memory cafes, they are working with a lot of our agencies serving predominantly limited income, limited English speaking. Agencies serving limited English speaking population. A lot of agencies who are, I'm so sorry, I'm getting twisted around some programs and language there, so apologies. But we have a lot of agencies who are serving limited English speaking population. They are adapting the basic model of the memory cafe, but making it their own, being culturally responsive. A lot of them are just welcoming people who are isolated to join in. And we've heard some stories from those agencies about people just coming in and sharing memories and talking with other people. It's just about connections and things like that. They're still at the heart of it. They've actually even gone longer than the time that they wanted to because they just enjoyed it. And it's like, hey, that's fine. That's great. That's actually wonderful if you're being responsive to your community, right? So that was the success we found. Thrive with Pride, we're bringing in non-traditional partners to the Aging Network. And I wanted to leave this quote here too. At the end of the Sage Table event, someone said, I feel more connected to my community now. And I just stepped back and I said, okay, well, there we go. That's it. We did what we needed to do. What a great feedback to have. Kathy, can you go to the next slide? And now this is not a singer, this is not a song, but thank goodness we had a world that Maya Angelou was in. And one of her famous quotes, people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And I think that kind of ties with success, that if you make somebody feel that community, feel connected, that's huge and so wonderful. Next slide. And so to close out, I just want to give a shout out to Beth Kozak, who's also an AmeriCorps service member, and Amanda Wojan. They are the folks who are managing the memory cafes. Kate Spellman is managing Thrive with Pride. And there's our website. And finally, next slide. Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm so glad to be here. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to me. So thanks, Kathy.
Thanks, Jason. That was so informative. Really appreciate you sharing with us. Next on the agenda is Joel Sekorski. Joel is Director of Services for the Elderly at Sullivan Senior Center. And I'm going to kick it over or turn it over to Joel.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm so honored to have this opportunity to talk about some of the things we're doing in Connecticut. I know there's so many people out there doing amazing things during this pandemic, but I'm hopefully going to give you a little overview of what we did prior to the pandemic, which rolled into the pandemic, and we adjusted and we tried to change on the fly, and some things that we're going to try to continue in the future that we learned during the pandemic. So I'm very, very excited to present this today and to show off what we do here at our program. Next slide, please. We're going to try to establish how we use the Older Americans Act funds and the congregate meals specifically to expand my senior center. We're going to talk a little bit about outreaching and programming and partnerships while we're doing that. And then I'd like to address some of the barriers that happen within your staffs and within your states and when funding is difficult to get. Next slide, please. These are some of the headers that we're going to be using in my presentation and some of the things that we do here as a mindset to move forward when we're planning events and when we're looking to the future months and when we need to get our newsletter done a month and a half in advance, and all of the things that go into planning a successful event and making successful partnerships. Next slide, please. We usually start with the menu. That's a whole process that we don't have time to talk about now, but we have the registered dietitian and we meet with the caterers and we talk about what works, and we keep copious notes from our seniors and our Meals on Wheels people for feedback. And we try to serve food that not only is nutritious, but that they're going to want to eat. So we start by reviewing our menus, and we're usually a couple cycles ahead. So we look into it deeply and we try to find a menu and exploit the food that is most well received when we have something outside of a normal holiday. You can see on this slide that we have St. Patrick's Day and Easter coming up in the same month. So we've focused on those two this month, along with some other special giveaways that we'll talk about. This increases your counts, it brings in new members, and it's a way to utilize that congregate program to really get people to see your senior center as something but a place for the elderly. So next slide, please. We document everything we do here. These are some pictures from the events we had over the last year during the pandemic. We try to take a photo picture as if you were to eat inside for future reference. We take the pictures that in the takeout boxes that we've been doing curbside here. Our counts have increased not only because of need, but because of desire. So we've been able to take these programs and these menus and put them at a whole different level. That's Oktoberfest, Fat Tuesday. We're looking at a special meal that we had for New Year's and Thanksgiving and some of the favors that we put in there. Next slide, please. We also try to think outside the box. Next slide, please. We use live entertainment and car hops. Last year, we had our band that comes and plays for our dances at the senior center. We put them right in the parking lot out in front of the center. That's our band right there. And we also lined up social distanced in the parking lot with people out in the open air on every day that we could. You can see how we spaced out the cars using cones to have people sit there. Next slide, please. These are some of our members that they really got into it. They brought their own tables, tablecloths, centerpieces, all kinds of things. So you'd be surprised what happens when you plan something. They were socializing right in the parking lot. People came in the same car. They were able to wear their masks. They found shade where they could find it. This year we have a grant through the CARES Act money where we're going to get some pop-up tents, and we're going to have some additional shade. Next slide, please. We do extras in almost every large event. This is where some of the partnerships and things happen. Last year, we even went through the parking lot with a blender making frozen smoothies. We had an ice cream truck come. We brought a kettle corn guy in. We went through on a cart and made sundaes for every person in the attendance that day. And then we had Santa Claus here as well. Next slide. Some of the tools for success on these events that I just briefly talked about is our partnerships. We have partnerships with local stakeholders, nursing homes, assisted living facilities, the food pantries, CSA shares. We have a grant from a farm to table where we use produce to upgrade our Meals on Wheels and congregate meals. We partner with a caterer to try to increase the quality of the food that we have utilizing those CSA shares. We share them with the members. We do menus for those events. We provide them recipes. There's really no limit to what we can do when we reach out into the area and find people that'll help us out. Next slide, please. These are some of the things that we got through our CSA shares this year. You can just see the beautiful vegetables, the fruits. We made salads. We upgraded the salads that came with our regular congregate lunch using those CSA shares. Next slide, please. This is our community garden. We use this for socialization. It's come a very long way in the years that we've had it going. We have business partnerships that make it go. We use the pavilion for social events. People were coming to our curbside and they were picking up the meal and going up to our pavilion and eating outside. I think that people could use their local parks. Not everybody has a parking lot. They might be in a city, but everybody has a park, or everybody has an area next to them where you can encourage the use of parks and different places. We have a walking trail that we try to tell people, come take a walk, come get your curbside meal, stay here in the parking lot. Now up here in Connecticut, it's winter. So you can imagine that we don't have a garden right now, and we don't have people sitting in the parking lot eating. But we did try to do a winter festival, and we did try to bring people together. Next slide, please. We utilize all of these curbside events for distributing any kind of information that we have. Today we had a boxed food giveaway, so we used our curbside lunch to promote that. We use our newsletter. Nutrition education is very important in the Older Americans Act. So we use our newsletter like everyone does, and we use our all kinds of different ways, but we decided that we would start to hand it out at the curbside. We also have plans this year to do a pop-up tent where we have a computer out there and people can come and they can watch the nutrition education outside. We've taped YouTube videos from our registered dietitian, and we put those on a link. We have ideas to try to track that. I know tracking is always a problem when you're doing something online, but we're going to have people call in or email us and say that they watched the video or answer a question, and then they're going to get put into a raffle so they can win free stuff by getting the nutrition education. So it's really, you try to use every tool that's in the box to try to get the people out of their homes down to the senior center to pick up a meal, to pick up all this information, to utilize our partners to get their information out, to hear what is important to them, and to track them. Congregate meals are a socialization program, and I believe that the curbside is just as social in a lot of cases as people that might come down for a meal during the regular year. So we're very encouraged by this curbside pickups and the things that we've been able to do. Move on, please. A lot of times when you try to create these programs, you say it can't be done. We don't have enough staff. We don't have enough money. I understand all of these things, but I think COVID-19 has provided us a unique opportunity to hit the reset button on a lot of these programs. Everyone across the country has done these amazing things. We've thought outside the box. We're doing Zoom programs online. We're making things happen that we never thought could happen. We were forced into technology, and so are our seniors. So we're going to have to teach them how to use these things as we move forward. I believe that we should try to reach out and change some of the Older American Act language that makes you eat at the site. Maybe curbside and takeout is something that we need to do on a limited basis. Maybe we need to encourage groups of people to get together and move out and go socialize in a park or take a walk with their friends and then come get the curbside meal. Maybe they don't want to come into a senior center the way they're configured in certain towns. So we need to get them in. We need to have them get the newsletter into their hands. We need to enhance our programming that's interesting to a newer and younger generation. All of these things can happen as we move out of COVID and into the next phase of what we're doing. But some of this stuff really needs to stay. And I think if you really work with your staff and you make them part of this process and part of the planning, and you empower them to give you ideas that can really work, they're going to be your best asset. Then they're going to encourage your volunteers to do it. And we're going to be able to push these programs through when you don't have money. And then when you do apply for grants, you're going to have tangible things that you've tracked, that you've taken pictures of, that you can talk about with passion. And when you do that, people will come on board and they'll want to be part of it. And the more people you bring on board, the more people there's going to be there to fund you in the future. Next slide, please. So my advice to everyone out there is never stop innovating. Keep your staff involved and always make it fun. There's absolutely nothing I won't do, from a crazy costume to a wild hat to these crazy ties that I wear. Every day, the seniors want to see us, they want to see your staff, and they want to be part of your lives. So with all that being said, I probably could talk for another 3.5 hours. That's the very condensed version of what we do here. We're very proud of it in Connecticut, and we look forward to pushing forward. We thank the ACL for everything that they do and for the recognizing of all the programs across the country. And I just want to say again, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak and to talk about what we do here in Connecticut. Thank you.
Thank you, Joel. Wonderful presentation, and we appreciate you sharing your insights. And with that, I do have an update on our Jeopardy game, and I know everyone's anxious to hear. It was a 3-way tie. Beatrice, Peaches, and Ginger all tied for first place. So we wanted to get that information to you. Next up is Edwin Walker. Edwin is Deputy Assistant Secretary of Aging for ACL. And with that, Edwin is going to close us out. Edwin?
Hello, everyone. I really appreciate the opportunity to participate in the first of our March webinars celebrating our Senior Nutrition program. I hope you've enjoyed the presentation today as much as I have. I'd like to thank our network speakers for taking time out of their busy schedules to share how they have addressed and responded to the pandemic and constantly ensure that our older Americans are cared for as initially intended by the Older Americans Act. Jason and Joel, thank you for your participation today. Now, I really enjoyed Nutrition Jeopardy. After all, I'm a huge Jeopardy fan. It's one of my all-time favorite shows, and I absolutely loved Alex Trebek. But back to Nutrition Jeopardy. What a great way to have some fun and reinforce our knowledge around the Older Americans Act. So I'm going to add my thanks to Keri and Judy and Beatrice and Peaches and Ginger. I love a 3-way tie. I never saw that on the real Jeopardy. By the way, I also love those headshots. Very, very, very creative. As Keri mentioned earlier in the webinar, a trifecta refers to a group of 3. Now, I am a big Kentucky Derby fan, and I've gone to Louisville nearly every year for the past 23 years, but of course not last year. A trifecta is when you place a bet on the horses that come in first, second, and third, win, place, and show. It signifies the ultimate, comprehensive, or being fully complete. In fact, the record of the highest trifecta payout in Derby history took place in 2005. Someone picked all 3, first place, second place, and third place winners, and their $2 ticket cashed out for just over $133,000. Now that's what I call ultimate, comprehensive, and fully complete. But in the case of the Older Americans Act, the trifecta really relates to nutrition, socialization, and health and well-being. Each of these components is of equal importance. And just like winning with any one of the horses at the Derby, it's considered pretty good and quite helpful. But all 3 must be fully addressed to truly ensure that all older Americans live the highest quality of life. Now, March is your month. It is a time to reflect on the Senior Nutrition program and those who ensure that our older Americans receive the trifecta of nutrition support to stay independent in their own homes. Throughout the month, we're going to highlight your crucial role, how every day you make a difference in the lives of older Americans. None of this is possible without you. And we say that all the time. You are our secret sauce. You are our greatest asset. But I have to challenge you as well. And I want to challenge you to look at your program with a fresh set of eyes. Make sure you're reaching your senior nutrition participants with all three intentions, the trifecta of the Older Americans Act. Talk to your participants. Ask them open-ended questions to make sure they receive the nourishment they need, the socialization they require during COVID, and the overall health and well-being that they deserve. Be creative and think outside the box. So please consider some of the ideas presented today by our speakers. If you have creative programs, we want to hear about them. Share your good works with the network. Complete the activity submission form on the ACL Senior Nutrition Program landing page, and then email it to us along with photographs from your program. We want you to toot your own horn, but also we want to toot your horn. And so don't be shy. We know you're doing great work. We hear about it all the time, and we want to help you share it. So help others jumpstart their programs. Who knows, your submission just might be featured on the ACL website. The Senior Nutrition Program Toolkit was developed to help you plan and implement fun, engaging programs that enhance socialization and well-being. From social media graphics to partnership and activity ideas, you'll find resources to help engage your seniors and the community. By using these tools, these activities and support materials, we can really celebrate this month and to address the challenges that are presented to us by COVID-19, including methods to overcome common barriers during the pandemic. So I also want you to promote your value with partners and local and state decision makers by using our program value infographic and poster. Let others know the contributions that your programs make toward the overall health and wellness of older Americans. We really do encourage you to join us for our Thursday at 3 webinar series. Weekly webinars will continue throughout the month on Thursdays at 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Upcoming webinars are scheduled for March 11th, the 18th, and the 25th. So go to www.acl.gov/SeniorNutrition for all the posted information. I want to close by again thanking each and every one of you for the change you create in this country every day. You are essential. Your work is critical. And you ensure our older Americans' health and safety as we continue to provide services and supports to keep them safely distanced and independent. So thank you once again for your many, many efforts and your incredible commitment to supporting older adults. And now I'll turn it back over to Kathy to wrap things up.
Thank you, Edwin. That was very inspiring. We appreciate you sharing with us. We are almost at time. We're coming up on the 4 o'clock hour if you're on the East Coast. Just a couple of reminders for more information on upcoming webinars. As Edwin mentioned, go to the ACL website. There are registration links. You can go ahead and sign up for webinar 2, 3, and 4. If you need a certificate of participation, please email me at the email address below, and I will be happy to send you that certificate. Again, thank you so much for your participation, and we look forward to your participation on March 11th as we look at food insecurity and malnutrition. And just one final thank you to Keri, Judy, of course, Beatrice, Peaches, and Ginger, and our network speakers, Joel and Jason, and of course, Edwin, thank you. With that, we'll close out. Appreciate everyone, and the recording will be posted on our website. Thank you.